Hello and welcome to the Monster Painter. This time we're taking a look at some super cheap miniatures by Wildspire. Alright, back in the day, the most reliable way of getting super cheap miniatures were these old Dungeons and Dragons board games. They were full of all sorts of cool models, heroes, and monsters, and they were great, and they weren't too expensive. But time has moved on and they are starting to get scarce, and they're certainly less, a lot less super cheap than they used to be. And by being hard to find, they're not reliable. Now, of course, there are expensive options. We're going to skip those. And then there's another super cheap option. Once in a while, a board game will be remaindered and you can find them really cheap at your dollar store. But again, not a reliable solution. And sometimes the models are not of the best quality. Now, of course, it's been said that the absolute best way to get super cheap miniatures is to back a crowdfunder. And crowdfunders are awesome, and the models all together are super cheap. But the buy-in is anything but super cheap. Usually you got to plunk down a couple $100 to get that sweet, sweet, sweet bargain. And of course, that a couple $100 is anything but super cheap. And of course, they also come with terrifying perils. I mean, crowdfunders can be delayed and botched and a total mess. So you're taking your hopes into your hands when you back a crowdfunder. Then Amazon. Once in a while, you can find an incredible bargain on Amazon, but again, that's not reliable. And that might not, it might not be there to scratch your super cheap miniature itch. Now, on the other hand, they do have sets, like from Path Miniatures, which are super cheap. A big problem, though, with Path Miniatures, at least some of the sets, are that, they're super cheap, but they kind of look super cheap too, so they're not the highest quality, but they are super cheap. On the other hand, Wildspire, a little more expensive than the Path Miniatures, offers some super cheap models at a fantastic price, but a bit better quality. So we're going to take a deep look. Alright, so let's dig into the box, and it is a pretty box for sure. It contains two sets, Spellblades and Enchanted Objects, which you can purchase separately, but buying them together in one kit is a much better value, and good value is what we're after here. So what's in the box? Well, there's a little rule book and 2 bags of unpainted miniatures. Let's get these bags open and take a look at their respective contents. So we get quite a selection of little plastic war dolls. The sculpts are pretty good with reasonable details, nothing mind-blowing, but at this price point they are solid. They are produced in that tough, slightly bendy plastic, so they're going to be good and durable for all those games on the road. Overall, the style is decidedly more TTRPG than wargaming. Nothing wrong with that. The tone is clearly leaning into the whimsical, with a couple of the models being a bit on the cutesy side. This might not work well for the edgy grimdark, but will be great for younger players or those who prefer fun over grit and nastiness. Overall, the models are novel and imaginative, making for a pretty distinctive set, and my first impressions of this kit are very good. As for the little book, well, it offers a bit of background for a setting to use the models in, and there is a bit of lore for each model, and a Dungeons and Dragons suitable stat block for each miniature. All very useful for dungeon masters with this kit. Unfortunately, the illustrations don't really deliver with good color scheme suggestions, but you can't have everything. Alright then, I feel you cannot really evaluate a miniature until you've painted the thing up. So I will paint up every single model in this great big set of 36, and then we can take a good look at them and see if they are worth their rather inexpensive price. It's a very diverse set with some rather novel sculpts. I'm going to start with the Spellblade models. First up is Bob Hillphilly, Alchemist of Infinite Vision. He is definitely a convincing alchemist. I don't know about the infinite vision part. He looks kind of drunk to me. At any rate, he has the role down pat. The design is a little cartoony, which I don't mind at all. In fact, as we will see later, the facial features on the cartoony models in this set are much more effective than the facial features on the naturalistic sculpts. The booklet describes the character as a temple alchemist who spouts esoteric wisdom and has a deep, insightful knowledge of magic potions. And I think he's believable in that role. I also think he would make a fine apothecary in a Frostgrave warband, handing out healing potions to get the warband through the exciting mission. Next up is Galfrax Soul Walker, the Talhund of Dumathon, whatever that means. Apparently, he is a dwarven cleric, billed as a funerary functionary, serving the dwarves working deep in the mines, and yeah, he is well suited for the role. The sculpt is novel, with him casting some sort of death spell and sporting a tombstone as a shield. Man, that must be heavy. Despite that shield, he would make an excellent dwarven necromancer. I mean, he's got the look down pat for sure. He even appears to be casting the Floating Skull spell from Frostgrave. So yeah, this creative little model would be a natural fit for a wizard from that most unnatural school of magic. On to Clarice Boudrian, Witch Knight of the Bog Lich. She is described as a naive servant of the Bog Lich and leader of his elite unit of Witch Knights, all of which is great fun lore for sure. I went in the opposite direction, giving her a much more girly girl color scheme than a Bog Witch. The sculpt and the pose of the model are quite nice, but we are starting to see the problems with this set. The details on the hands and the face are scant, almost non-existent. This is pretty normal for really cheap models like this, so no one should be surprised. I had to draw in the face, to middling effect, I think. All in all, I like the model, and she would work well as most kinds of spellcasters. I can definitely see using this model in Frostgrave as a spell effect. This is what the wizard looks like once they have cast the illusionist spell Beauty upon themselves. Here we have Darlene Sinafa, Sorceress of the Moon. She is described as a mover and shaker amongst the elves. She has a seat on the High Council and is a teacher and mentor to the young folk. It's good stuff. And she looks the part. We have that poor detail on the face again, and I'm definitely unsure about that chunky rose flower staff of hers. On the other hand, she has a kitty. And the kitty is wearing a wizard hat. How fun is that? This lends itself to the question, who is the wizard and who is the apprentice? But otherwise, she looks confident and tough and could pull off most spellcasting roles with aplomb. Next up, we have Don Gravitz, Sun Guard Cathedral Protector. He is described as a highly confident and competent temple guard and cleric, and once again, he really looks the part. The pose conveys confidence and swagger. The kind of swagger that can only come from having a big magic hammer. I mean, look at that thing. It's awesome. And it really gives the model its charm. The details on the face are better, but not good. Still, it's a nicely sculpted, fun model that will make a great Templar in a game of Frostgrave. This is Elsarak, Special Agent of the Milgroth Guard, and is described as a shadowy figure for that city guard, getting his hands dirty so others might keep theirs clean. And yeah, the lore keeps on matching these models really well. Someone pointed out that he looks a little reminiscent of He-Man's buddy Orko, and had I realized that, I would have leaned into that color scheme. I think that would have been fun. He's got weak details on his hands, but his mask sorts out his face really well. This has to be one of my favorite models in the Spellblade set. He's such a compelling magical assassin with a great simple sculpt. Frostgrave-wise, I think he would make a very fine illusionist spellcaster. Here we have Gale Swiftfoot, emissary to Eronia. He is a guardian, military advisor, emissary, and agent, and I don't know if he looks like any of that at all. I admit I didn't like this model at first. That big head and the stylized proportions looked way too cowy cutesy for me. However, I warmed up to the model once I painted it up. It has such a novel and unusual pose and sculpt that the miniature won me over, despite it really not being to my tastes. I don't know if I'm going to get a lot of use out of this model, but I can see him being hired on as a Templar in a Frostgrave warband. On to Ivan, Protector of Strawn. He is described as a unique creation with mysterious origins. And yeah, that's what he looks like. I am a sucker for medieval robots, so I'm going to like this model. The sculpt is pretty solid and the concept is imaginative. Overall, it's pretty good, but not wowing. Still, Warforged are a lot of fun, and the dude would make the perfect knight in an Enchanter's warband for Frostgrave. Here we have one of my favorites, Corrine, Warden of the Mistglade. She is a counselor and powerful druid serving the Dwarven Empire, and a delightful model fulfilling that role to the max. I love the mushroom hat and the shovel staff, combined with the novelty of a Dwarven druid with plenty of face style. This is one of the stars of the set. She is leaning towards the cartoony side, which is good because it means her facial features are better than most of the models in this set. I love this model. I love this model so much I am thinking about putting together a Dwarven Witch warband for Frostgrave, and that's not something I've ever thought of before. Next up is the Unnamed Champion of Shadows, a halfling paladin and death knight on a mysterious mission. And no, this one is not my favorite. While I like the concept of a halfling death knight, his helmet is too big. The design can't decide between cutesy and grim fantasy, and so it achieves neither. Otherwise, the pose and the details are well handled. I'm sure for people with different tastes, this is a fine model. It's just not for me. We continue to a much better model with Professor Dylan Freed, Emeritus of Sauron. He's described as an enchanter, visionary, and guardian of his city, a kind of fantasy wizard Nikolai Tesla type. And while the sculpt might fulfill this role, my paint job went in an entirely different direction. For me, the model just said Pyromancer, and so that's where I went. It's a nice, solid sculpt with good details, especially the flames on that sword. Yes, indeed, I love this model, and I can see him leading an Elementalist warband in Frostgrave. Moving on to Cinia Vorentide, Shadow Acolyte of the Bog Lich. She was living the simple life in a remote agricultural community when a tragic farming accident left her scarred and traumatized, and thus vulnerable to the corruption of the dreaded Bog Lich. She has hence become his sorceress servant and given herself over to his dark plans. My paint job went completely the opposite direction. The model has a generic wizard style and really could go in whatever direction you might want. Overall, the model is convincing as a powerful lady wizard, but she has some of the faintest details on her hands and face in the entire set, with that left hand being little more than a bump. Still, she's a solid and versatile magic user model, and I really quite like it. Now we have Strickland Herman, Master of Infinite Thought. Yeesh, what a title. He is an instructor at the temple, teaching students how to channel their Kai into elemental power. I like the portrayal of a disabled veteran warrior as such an active agent. It gives the model some gravitas and a unique identity, and that's good stuff. The details are solid, and the pose is convincing. Overall, it's a pretty good and original model. I kind of imagine this is what it looks like when you cast Elemental Hammer on a Mystic Warrior in Frostgrave. What a super fun model! This is Tangle, blacksmith of Sauron, and he is an inventor and black powder merchant, and one of the most fun models in the whole set. The slightly cartoony style fits him perfectly. He has a good pose and solid details, and it all comes together to create a convincing cat person blacksmith artificer. And that blending that combo is no easy feat. I'm a sucker for novelty, and this guy has it in spades. What a fun model! He is going to make an excellent enchanter in Frostgrave, leading a warband of robots and animals, and maybe even animal robots! Closing out the Spellblade set, we come to a model I don't really care for. Tristan Fallow, Elite Knight of Milagroth, protects the noble families of the kingdom and is known for a decisive, calm demeanor. And I don't think this model illustrates that lore at all. In fact, I think he looks more like a murder hobo wearing rags and armed with a broken sword. I'm not crazy about the pose. I don't like his magic shield. Moreover, he has some of the muddiest details in the entire set. For the price, he is fine, even what you might and should expect. But compared to the rest of the models of the set, he's total meh. Alright, on to the second set in this kit, the Enchanted Objects, which is easily my favorite of the two. Doesn't struggle with the problems of muddy details on the faces because it's all a bunch of enchanted objects. And we're going to start off with this archivist's assistant, and he is clearly a hard-working robot, the kind that every wizard is going to want to have. It's a totally great model with a simple design and all the details it needs to give it character. It's a real gem. Apart from all the obvious uses in magic laboratories and wizardy libraries and all that kind of stuff, I think it would make a good proxy for the Collegium Porter, a dangerous construct that wanders the arcane libraries of Frostgrave. Not perfect, but he will get the job done at a much lower price than the original models. Second up is this recognizable classic, the animated broom. Now, of course, when a wizard's apprentice animates one of these to avoid his chores and ends up taking a nap instead, all sorts of mayhem will erupt. Fortunately, they are usually just in the background of palaces and magic libraries and temples and that kind of thing, quietly cleaning up after the intrigues and skullduggery. I will be using this fellow as a wild, small construct in Frostgrave. You see, in the glory days of Old Felstead, before the Great Calamity, these animated brooms were quite common and quite popular for obvious reasons. After 1,000 years frozen in the ice, these helpful little guys have gone mad and are all too eager to attack the sleazy pot diggers that make up every wizard's warband. It's time for lunch on the run, and this cauldron is clearly the Baba Yaga special. Yummy! I really like this big old pot. It has a nice pose and convincing details, and a really evocative and novel design. I can't imagine a witch or a hag who wouldn't want one of these crocs scratching around the hut. It's just a straight up fun model with a bunch of natural uses. It's going to appear as a small wild construct in Frostgrave, with much the same rationale as that magic broom. Old Felstead, a place where home appliances run amok. Okay, so here we have something that works better in concept than as a finished model. This animated dagger swarm is a whirlwind of knives, the thought of which is quite unnerving and dangerous. The model doesn't quite measure up to the concept, however. We can forgive the designer, as a dagger tornado is a very challenging thing to sculpt at the best of times. The details and the number of daggers isn't great, and the whirlwind isn't quite there either. But they were aiming really high for such a budget production, and to be fair, it does look like a whirlwind of knives, and no one is going to question it on the tabletop. I admire the ambition. I just kind of wish the concept had a more pricey, elaborate execution. On to a trio of cute little bottles, billed as flasks of combustion and functioning as little walking grenades, which is totally fun. I think if I had them, I would fill them up with other kinds of potions. Imagine being a warrior battling it out in the haunted ruins. Just as you're being cut down, the wizard sends one of these little guys scuttling over to you with a potion of healing. Suddenly you're back in the fight and the tide is turning. Yep, that sounds like even more fun. Yeah, so I think I better start making some homebrew to work these little guys into my games. on to this little gargoyle, and well, he is not very exciting. I probably already have a dozen similar models, and there is nothing special about a sinister little statue on a pedestal. Granted, I have never seen one this cute, but I'm not sure that is necessarily a good thing. At any rate, it's fine. I can always use another one and it'll work just fine. But for such an imaginative and novel set of models, this one just isn't that imaginative. Next up, we have some animated kindling. And it doesn't look like kindling at all, but rather a big old stump set ablaze and running amok. What a fun model. Who doesn't want to light up a wooden golem and send it careening towards your enemies? Just watch those bastards scatter. It's a solid, well-sculpted model that effectively conveys the chaos of the moment. So much fun. It looks like I'm going to start going through wooden constructs like Wildspire. Now we have something clearly inspired by Terry Pratchett's excellent novels Discworld, as this mage's traveling chest is clearly built out of sentient pearwood. What adventuring party wouldn't be happy to have one of these fine pieces of luggage carting around their possessions without adding anything to their encumbrance? Handy and convenient, it's a must-have for adventurers on the go. Yet another super fun model in this fantastic set. This one is for all you stoners out there. The animated pet rock is channeling a bit of that 60s nostalgia when a fad for pet rocks burst onto the scene and then faded away just as quickly. This adorable little pebble seems to accurately envision what a real animated pet rock might be. Although he lacks the instruction book that made the original so successful, he is still a lot of fun. I could see him being used as a baby earth elemental and possibly the MacGuffin for an entire adventure, or just some eccentric wizard's pet rock. Either way, it's still a lot of fun. On to an animated rug. This lively floor covering appears to have taken a bit of inspiration from the flying carpet in Disney's version of that classic 1001 Arabian Nights tale, Aladdin. The sculpt has the lively energy of that animated character, but with a bit more menace. It's a great evocative sculpt, ready to smother its foes. It's a surprisingly novel model, and I gotta love that. Just be forewarned, if you piss on this rug, it'll do more than hold the room together, dude. Here we have the Sheet of Ghostly Form, which I guess is supposed to be a magically animated bedsheet. But really, it's a ghost. It's a ghost as envisioned in children's storybooks and Charlie Brown Halloween specials. It does a great job at this. And while it could be used as a combatant, the miniature world is full of much more menacing wraiths. No, I think this less threatening specter is better suited as an NPC. Perhaps she knows a clue, or has a dark secret, and if you can do something or other or get a MacGuffin, she'll be freed of her earthly bounds and can ascend to the afterlife, that kind of thing. At any rate, I would leave the fighting to the much more common, scary undead, because this ghost is much more useful in the role-playing part of the game. I admit, I do not particularly care for the Shield of Astral Touch. It's okay, it's a novel sculpt, but meh, I don't get it. Shields are not the floating active kind of magic item, and why is it trying to touch things? Shields are pushy and stern, not touchy-feely. I don't know. The sculpt is fine, and it'll be okay as a treasure marker, but yeah, this one just doesn't move me, I gotta admit it. Oh great, we get another floating magic shield. The Shield of Magic Vision. And I like this one even less. To be fair, these two shields are the only duds in this whole set, which is otherwise lively, imaginative, and super fun. This shield looks like he's trying to say something, so okay. It's a little awkwardly shaped, and the sculpt is kind of unconvincing. Again, it'll work fine as a treasure marker or something like that. It's okay, it's just not very inspiring. This fellow is described as a stone guardian, and of course he's an obvious choice for a small stone golem or a medium construct. He could work well as an earth elemental as well. I feel he is channeling a bit more of that Terry Pratchett Discworld vibe. He feels very reminiscent of the trolls in that world, which are a silicon-based life form who operate at a slower temporal pace than us carbon types. I remember meeting one in the old Discworld video game. He worked as a potter. It was great fun. At any rate, it's a solid functional sculpt that gets the job done. Now for one of my favorite models in the entire set, the animated teddy bear. He could simply be a cute little children's toy animated as a small construct, or it could be a haunted toy binding the sorrowful ghost of some long dead child, or even the ghost of a wretched and cursed toy collector. Perhaps he's been animated by some sort of ill-conceived wish. Or this cuddly little guy could be possessed by some diabolical agent from beyond the veil, bent on destroying the small family he lives with, wreaking terror on the village, and ultimately threatening the stability of the entire kingdom itself! Or something. At any rate, the novel little model has a whole lot of narrative possibilities. It's great stuff. I love it. Again, we get an awesome little model, and one of my favorites from this set, the animated turkey. Obviously, this turkey could be a vengeful revenant, wrathfully turning the tables on his cook and all those who wish to dine on his succulent flesh. Alternatively, he could be the endpoint of a fiendishly elaborate assassination plot. Or maybe you simply interrupted the evil wizard's banquet and he sends this thing at you. It's an imaginative and novel model containing tons of potential fun. Now, while I didn't like the floating magical shields at all, I do really like the floating magical weapons. They're cool. This thing could be used as a spell effect for some kind of spiritual hammer spell or something, but I don't think anyone would be terribly surprised if such an obviously magical hammer came to life and started swinging, alternatively. I think I'm going to be using it as a medium construct in Frostgrave. It will be a powerful and ancient magic weapon that is sick and tired of all the sleazy pot diggers crawling around the haunted ruins and has decided to do something about it. It's going to be super fun. Obviously, anything a magic hammer can do, a magic sword can do better. And this is a great little animated magical sword. Folklorically, I think there is a precedent for haunted swords being wielded by unseen ghostly hands. In Dungeons and Dragons, there's a tradition of sentient and intelligent magic swords, and maybe this is just one taking things into its own hands, so to speak. It's a really lively and dynamic model, and it's just another great model in this really, really good set. Here we have a little medieval robot. He is a bit too small to be a warforged, but I'm sure he'd make a dandy animated companion of some sort. He's a natural fit as a small construct in Frostgrave. As for the model itself, well, I found some of the details a little muddy and some of the choices a little puzzling, but overall it's effective and convincing, if not my favorite model in the set. Finally, we have come to the penultimate model in the set and the last of the Enchanted Objects. And it's a robot dog! And it's ready to ride! Companion, guardian, attack dog, for sure. He can do all of this. But this guy is begging to be used as a mount. I think I'm going to see if I can find a goblin rider for the job, because that would be so much fun. This construct has a lot of uses, and I think a goblin riding him would be one of the best. Definitely a fun little robot doggo. He's cool. Naturally, we come to the end of our journey through Wildspire's Spellblades and Enchanted Objects at the feet of a boss monster. The Troll Queen is not part of the Spellblades or the Enchanted Objects set. She is the reward for buying them bundled together. And given how the bundle is such a better deal than buying them separately, this is clearly the way to go. While our queen is a little cartoony, she is still a really fun and menacing model. She is big. She is dangerous. She is one of the best in the box. A great monster that will be getting work as a snow troll in Frostgrave, but more importantly, she represents the bard's time to shine. Go for it, minstrel, and get some of that sweet, sweet snoo-snoo. And there you have it. Wildspire's Spellblades and Enchanted Objects in its entirety. I quite like this set overall. While there are some duds and some weak details, it is overall a very imaginative and fun, interesting set of miniatures. Clearly it's more suited to RPGs than wargames, and the overall whimsical tone makes it perfect for younger players or anyone who is weary of the grim darkness. For the number, variety, and quality of the models, I don't know if it can be beat, at least at this price point. This set gets a big thumbs up from me. It's a great, super cheap, and fun. I have included some non-affiliate links in the video description if you think this set is for you. And with all that said, it's time for a monster fight! Welcome to tonight's monster fight. It features this heavy hitter. A magic hammer that grants the user +3 swagger. Versus this finely crafted magic sword. She has a 17 intelligence, a bunch of special powers, and an ego of 23. Who will win this duel? Only the old bones know. Ooh, wow. Okay, well, that's going to be a real solid duel for sure. Well, there you have it. Once again, it was hammer time! Oh, hey! I'd just like to take a moment to thank my channel members, Mark and Lauren. Your ongoing support of the channel is greatly appreciated. And perhaps you would like to support the Monster Painter as well with a small monthly contribution. Well, hit that join button down there, and then you gain early access to Monster Painter videos. And you will be able to see the members exclusive monthly monster fight. And you could get digital badges. It's almost so overwhelming. Or maybe, you want something for your money. That's fair. Well, the merch shelf down there has some options, like a really cool Monster Painter t-shirt, or even better yet, a Monster Painter mug for your morning wake-up beverages. That sounds awesome to me. Drax the Destroyer will be transformed into a frost giant named Drax the Destroyer. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share the video, and ring the bell! Ring the bell!
You are watching Les the Monster Painter.